The wildfire was officially under control. Smoke still drifted through the pine forest as the rescue helicopter settled onto a rocky clearing. Amelia Brooks glanced at the fuel gauge before shutting down the engine. It had been a brutal 6-hour mission, but every missing hiker had been accounted for. That's the last one, she said over the radio. Daniel, the senior park ranger, helped an exhausted couple climb away from the helicopter. Beside him, Max, his 6-year-old German shepherd, watched the burning hillside with unusual intensity. Daniel clipped the leash onto Max's harness. "Good job, partner. We're done." For the first time that day, Max didn't look at him. His ears stood rigid. His eyes remained fixed on a wall of black smoke deeper inside the forest. Amelia walked over, removing her flight helmet. "I've seen that look before," she said. "He smells something." Daniel shook his head. The fire department searched every sector twice. Thermal drones found nothing. Max growled. Low, deep, not at the smoke, not at the flames, at something hidden beyond them. A firefighter approached carrying a tablet. "We're clearing out. Wind is changing. This area won't be safe much longer." Daniel nodded. "Understood." He tugged gently on Max's leash. "Come on." Max refused. The dog planted all 4 paws into the ground. Daniel frowned. That wasn't normal. Max had ignored distractions before. He had never ignored a direct command during an active rescue. Another tug. Nothing. Then Max suddenly barked. Once. Twice. 3 sharp barks that echoed across the mountain. Several firefighters turned around. "What got into him?" one of them asked. Before Daniel could answer, Max jerked forward with astonishing force. The leash slipped through Daniel's glove. No. Max exploded into a sprint, straight toward the still-burning forest. Max, Daniel shouted as he chased after him. The German shepherd disappeared between blackened trees, weaving through smoke with absolute certainty. Amelia reacted instantly. "I'm going after him." "The fire's still active," a firefighter yelled. "I know." She grabbed a portable. Less 2RM. Branches cracked beneath their boots. Ash floated through the air like snow. The deeper they went, the hotter it became. Daniel finally spotted Max nearly 200 yards ahead. The dog wasn't running randomly. He was following a scent. Then Max suddenly stopped. He began scratching furiously at the ground beside a massive fallen pine tree. Daniel caught up, breathing heavily. "What is it, boy?" Max barked again. Desperate this time, Amelia scanned the area with the thermal camera. Nothing. Only glowing patches from burning roots beneath the soil. "No heat signatures," she said. Daniel looked around. Maybe he found an animal den. Max ignored them. Instead, he ran past the tree and disappeared behind a curtain of thick smoke. A loud cracking sound echoed through the forest. The burning trunk shifted. Flames burst higher. "Tree coming down," Amelia shouted. She grabbed Daniel and pulled him backward just as the giant pine crashed across the trail, sending sparks high into the air. The path behind Max vanished. For a few terrifying seconds, there was only fire and silence. Then somewhere beyond the flames, Max barked again. Only this time, another voice barked back. Daniel's face turned pale. That wasn't Max. Amelia listened carefully. Another bark echoed through the smoke. It was weaker. Hoarser? Definitely another dog. "There's a second dog out there," Amelia said. Daniel stared at the wall of fire blocking the trail. Nobody reported a missing canine. The burning pine continued to collapse, showering sparks across the ground. Going through it was impossible. Max barked again. This time, the answer came immediately. Closer, desperate. Amelia looked toward the hillside. There, a narrow ridge climbed around the burning trees. "If we circle from above, we might reach him." Daniel nodded. "Let's move." The climb was steep. Loose rocks slid beneath their boots, while smoke reduced visibility to only a few yards. Every few seconds, Amelia stopped listening. Max kept barking. The unknown dog answered. The 2 animals seemed to be guiding them. After nearly 10 minutes, the ridge curved behind the flames. The temperature dropped slightly. Then they found Max. He was standing beside a deep crack in the ground, barking into it. Daniel rushed over. "What did you find?" Max didn't move. He simply stared downward. Amelia knelt beside the opening and aimed the thermal camera inside. The screen flickered. One heat source. Then another. Then 3. Her heartbeat quickened. "Daniel, what?" "There are multiple heat signatures." He leaned closer. "People, I don't know." The opening was too narrow to see clearly. Daniel grabbed a flashlight from his backpack and shined it inside. The beam disappeared into darkness before reflecting off old wooden beams. "This isn't a natural crack." Amelia looked again. "It looks like an underground structure." Suddenly, a weak whimper rose from below. Not a human. "Eto." Max whined softly in response. The sound was enough. Daniel understood. He's trying to reach the other dog. They searched for another entrance. Nothing. Only burned earth and shattered rocks. Amelia checked the thermal camera once more. The heat signatures were barely moving. If there are people down there, they won't last long. Daniel pulled out his radio. "Command, this is Ranger Daniel. I need structural rescue at Sector 7. Static." Nothing. He tried another channel. Still nothing. "The fire damaged the repeater tower," Amelia said. "We're out of range." Max suddenly began digging at the edge of the crack. His paws threw dirt everywhere. Daniel joined him with a folding shovel. After several minutes, metal scraped against something solid. Clang. Both of them froze. Daniel brushed away the ash. An old steel hatch appeared beneath the soil. Its surface was blackened with age. A rusted wheel handle sat in the center. Amelia wiped away more dirt. Faded letters slowly became visible. "Property of U.S. Forest Service." She looked at Daniel. "I've worked rescue for 11 years. I've never seen this bunker on any map." Daniel grabbed the wheel and pulled. It didn't move. He tried again with all his strength. Nothing. It's sealed. Max suddenly stopped digging. His ears shot upright. He turned away from the hatch and stared into the forest behind them. Low growls rolled from his chest. Amelia followed his gaze. Through the smoke, someone was standing between the burned trees, watching them. Then the figure disappeared. Daniel drew the sidearm he carried for wildlife emergencies. "Who's there?" No answer. Only smoke drifted between the burned trees. Amelia picked up a fallen branch and tossed it toward where the figure had been standing. Nothing moved. "You saw it too?" Daniel asked. "I did." "It wasn't the smoke." "No." For a moment, they remained completely still. Max, however, wasn't looking frightened. He wasn't barking at the trees anymore. He was staring directly at the steel hatch. Then he began scratching at it again. Clang, clang, clang. The desperate scratching was followed by another muffled bark from below. The dog, underground, was still alive. Amelia immediately knelt beside the hatch. If someone sealed this from the outside years ago, rust is locking the wheel. Daniel examined the hinges. They're old but not broken. He slid the shovel handle through the wheel to gain more leverage. "Help me." Amelia grabbed the other end. 3, 2, 1. They pushed together. The wheel groaned but refused to turn. Again, nothing. Sweat mixed with ash on Amelia's face. She looked toward the helicopter resting far below. "We need hydraulic tools." Daniel checked his watch. "They're 15 minutes away." Amelia shook her head. "We don't have 15 minutes. Max suddenly stopped scratching. Instead, he lowered his head to the narrow gap beside the hatch and barked once. A tiny hand appeared through the darkness. Both of them froze. It disappeared almost instantly. Amelia's voice dropped to a whisper. "Daniel, I saw it. There really is someone alive." She lay flat on the ground. "Can you hear me? This is rescue." Silence. Then a weak little voice answered. "Help." Amelia closed her eyes for a second. "A child." Daniel's expression changed completely. "How many people are down there?" No response. The child coughed violently. "Smoke?" The bunker's ventilation had probably been damaged by the wildfire. Amelia tried again. Listen carefully. We're going to get you out. Another cough. Then the same weak voice. Please, don't leave. Daniel grabbed the radio one more time. Command anyone copy. Only static. Max suddenly sprinted away from the hatch. Max, Daniel shouted. The German Shepherd disappeared into the trees. Amelia looked confused. Where's he going now? I don't know. For 30 long seconds they heard nothing except the crackling fire. Then Max returned. He wasn't alone. Behind him came 2 exhausted firefighters carrying portable cutting equipment. One of them gasped for breath. Your dog found us. Daniel stared at Max in disbelief. The firefighters had been searching another fire line nearly half a mile away. Without Max, they would never have known where to come. What have we got? One firefighter asked. A sealed bunker, Amelia answered. At least one child inside, possibly more survivors. The firefighter immediately unpacked a battery-powered rescue saw. This should cut the locking pins. The blade screamed as it bit into the rusted steel. Sparks flew. 1 pin. Then the second. The wheel finally turned. Slowly, painfully. With a deep metallic groan, the hatch lifted a few inches. A wave of hot, stale air burst from below. Amelia shined her flashlight inside. The beam revealed a narrow staircase descending into darkness. Halfway down, a frightened little girl was shielding an injured German Shepherd with her own body. And at the bottom of the stairs, someone else was lying completely motionless. Amelia dropped to one knee at the edge of the opening. My name is Amelia. We're here to help. The little girl looked up, her face streaked with soot. She couldn't have been more than 9 years old. She wrapped both arms tighter around the injured German Shepherd lying beside her. Please, don't leave him, she whispered. We won't, Amelia promised. Daniel clipped a rescue rope to the steel ladder anchored inside the bunker. I'll go first. Max stepped forward immediately. Daniel looked at him. Stay close. The German Shepherd climbed carefully down the narrow stairs, stopping beside the frightened dog below. Instead of barking, Max gently touched noses with him. The injured animal let out a weak whine but didn't pull away. He trusts Max, Amelia said quietly. At the bottom of the bunker, Daniel quickly examined the motionless person lying against the concrete wall. A man, late 50s. Weak, pulse, barely breathing. He's alive, Daniel shouted upward. Amelia descended with the medical kit. The bunker looked like an old Forest Service emergency shelter built decades earlier. Rusted shelves lined the walls. Empty water containers lay scattered across the floor. A ventilation pipe overhead had partially collapsed, allowing smoke to seep inside. She immediately placed an oxygen mask over the man's face and checked his airway. Severe smoke inhalation, she said. We need to move him now. The little girl refused to stand. I'm not leaving without Ranger. Amelia frowned. Ranger. She pointed to the injured German Shepherd. He's my dog. Daniel carefully examined Ranger's leg. A heavy metal cabinet had fallen across it. No fracture, he said. But the leg is badly crushed. Together they lifted the cabinet away. Ranger cried out once before Max moved beside him again, gently licking his muzzle as if reassuring him. The little girl finally managed a faint smile. I told him someone would come. Before anyone could respond, a loud rumble echoed through the bunker. Dust drifted from the ceiling. Amelia looked up. The fire above is weakening the ground. Another crack split across the concrete roof. Small pieces began falling around them. Daniel didn't hesitate. We evacuate now. He lifted the unconscious man onto a rescue stretcher, while Amelia secured oxygen and IV supplies. The firefighters above started pulling. The stretcher rose slowly toward daylight. Then another violent tremor shook the bunker. The lights on Amelia's helmet flickered. A concrete beam snapped with a deafening crack. Daniel shoved the little girl toward the stairs. Go. She climbed with Ranger, following as fast as he could. Max waited until both reached the ladder before turning back toward Daniel. For one terrifying second, the ceiling began collapsing directly above the Ranger, and there was no clear path left for him to escape. Daniel, Amelia screamed. A massive concrete slab crashed onto the floor, blocking the path behind him. Dust filled the bunker. Max didn't run. Instead, he sprinted back toward Daniel. The German Shepherd barked once, then stopped beside a narrow gap between the fallen beam and the wall. Daniel understood immediately. It was the only way out. He dropped to his knees and pushed the stretcher containing the unconscious ranger through the opening first. Above, the firefighters pulled with all their strength until the stretcher disappeared into daylight. Another section of the ceiling collapsed. Amelia climbed back down 2 steps despite the danger. Daniel moved. He crawled through the narrow gap, but his backpack caught on twisted rebar. For one terrifying second, he couldn't move. Max bit the loose shoulder strap and yanked with all his strength. The strap snapped. Daniel lunged forward just as another concrete beam crashed onto the spot where he had been trapped. He scrambled up the stairs beside Max. The moment they reached the surface, the old bunker collapsed completely with a deafening roar. Everyone stood frozen. Had they been 5 seconds slower, none of them would have survived. Amelia immediately turned her attention to the survivors. The unconscious ranger was breathing more steadily after receiving oxygen. The little girl refused to leave Ranger's side while Daniel wrapped the injured dog's leg in a temporary splint. Max quietly lay beside Ranger, keeping him calm. As another rescue helicopter arrived, the little girl finally spoke. "My grandpa brought us here when the fire came. He said this old shelter would protect us." Daniel looked at the collapsed ground. It was built decades ago and removed from modern maps. Almost no one knew it still existed. Amelia smiled at the little girl. "If Max hadn't come back into the fire, we never would have found you." The little girl wrapped her arms around Max's neck. He heard Ranger calling. Daniel looked at his loyal partner with quiet admiration. He had trusted Max for years, but today the dog had ignored every command to save lives. No human knew were in danger. As the helicopters lifted off, Amelia watched the mountain disappear beneath them. She glanced at Max lying peacefully beside Ranger. "I thought the mission was over," she said softly. Daniel smiled. "It wasn't our mission that ended. It was Max's that had just begun." Far below, firefighters continued extinguishing the last flames. Above them, 2 rescue helicopters flew toward the nearest hospital carrying 4 survivors. Because one German Shepherd had refused to walk away from the fire,